Welcome back to Wine and Wine with Sam and Russell. Here we are again.
Hello.
And
We're
here we
back,
are.
baby.
Yeah, we back. We back. Now we're going to look at white. Russell, how did you go looking at white cards?
Yeah, so the idea I think behind this is we look at maybe the five cards in particular in focus that we think inspire us for formats, and sometimes there are some honorable mentions. When I first went over the set and sent you my additional thoughts, I sent you two white cards.
Yeah.
So I had a tough time on this one. There's always, I think, a weakest color, whether it be for limited or constructed. I'm not particularly good at judging white cards either, and I don't often get excited by them. So the two that I liked, I quite like. And then I think there was a considerable drop-off in playability and power after that, but you've managed to find a few, and we've talked over it. And yeah, I think they're at least five solid, potentially playable cards, and maybe a couple that are format impactful, maybe format.
Yeah. I mean, how exciting is vanilla ever? You know what I mean? Like white is, the basic of basicest colors, something that needs a bit of attention, but thematically we're not really pushing white too much in either of the Innistrad sets. It was the weakest color last time as well. So sure, it's Innistrad, darkness is winning, that's okay. I don't know the plot yet, but I'm sure something horrifying is going to happen to all the people. So
I can tell you, but maybe on a different time.
Maybe
I'll tell you after the video.
Yeah, sure. No spoilers, guys. Oh, MTG plot. It's too exciting. All right. So the first card we have is a reprint. Valorous Stance. So this was last printed, I want to say it was in Tarkir, but I can't remember which set.
Tarkir, probably. Oh, no, it was
It's a middle set. Fate Reforged.
Fate Reforged. Yeah, it was. I remember the art now. And it was playable then.
Absolutely, it was.
Yeah.
Look, it's no channel harm, but I quite like it. I think it's being able to both kill a card, kill a creature that's a problem and protect your dude is really good, especially in white decks. I mean, it's good on rate. It's not an exciting card in a lot of ways. It's sort of an innings eater. But it does give you a bunch of options against control decks and the like. That being said, I don't know how many... This is probably you play like 3 in the 75, maybe 4 in the 75, but possibly none main deck, just depending on what's around. The issue with white decks is that if there's enough creatures with toughness 4 or greater in the format that you'd need to put a bunch of these in the main deck, you probably just don't want to play white weenie anyway. So... Who knows? It's a good matchup breaker for the decks you're weakest against. So I like it a lot. It's just a solid card.
Yeah, I think it's always at its best in white X, whether that's green white or probably red white strategies, and at its best coming out of the sideboard. You want that indestructible mode to be protecting something with a higher converted mana cost than the cost of Valorous Stance, which in mono white. Not really too many options there, so you really want to be looking at
So you'd
mostly
be protecting one of the creatures that exiles a card. It's sort of the only thing that gets played. That's only 3, so you'd rather be protecting your own 4/4 or whatever. So it'll get played.
It'll see some play.
Yeah. All right, so we got another reprint for the next card. Probably the more exciting of the reprints, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, with some amazing art here. Although I do quite like the Dracula art for this as well. But yeah, I mean, Russell, take it away.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben is one of the few white cards that I can always get behind. I love this card. Insanely good on rate. Again, 2 mana, not double coloured, so in theory splashable for 2/1 first strike. Is very strong, both on early aggression and on defense, and then the tax of non-creature spells, particularly for white wing builds, is always very, very good. It just makes your opponents that are in control or spell heavy stumble that extra 1 turn, which is what these decks typically need. this is hopefully a tool which will make blue-red less easy slam dunk, just making, all of their cantrips cost 2, which is huge, doubling that mana cost there, taxing that unexpected windfall, which they use to get ahead, a further turn away, also very good, and preventing them from double spelling. And if they want to do something like Galvanic Iteration into Elrond's Epiphany, that's going to cost a lot more mana. Costing an extra 2 mana is
So it's
huge.
at cheapest, it's 10 mana to do that instead of 8.
Yeah.
So that's it's a big deal. I personally despise this card. I think it's really well designed, but it just keeps beating the crap out of me, and I don't like that.
Oh yeah, I hate playing against it. I love the idea of the card.
I've played so many games with Thalia in it, and in none of them have I been casting the card. So, just from me, from my heart, go get stuffed, Thalia. I'm sick of your crap. But, hey, I think it's a good time for it to be printed, so I'm not that salty. Just a little.
I hated it until I played the literal one legacy tournament I played in Spain, where I was just given Death and Taxes, and I played Thalia a lot, and I felt very smart. I wasn't very smart, but I felt very smart.
Yeah.
So
nothing like feeling smart.
Yeah, good to see her back, looking absolutely phenomenal. So this is my pick for the most influential card in white. I am aware it's probably not yours, but
it's close. It's close. I have one that I think might matter a little bit more, but this card's going to be good, and it's got an established archetype to go right into. So guaranteed this is going to be relevant for sure. All right.
Next up,
Savior of Ollenbock. This is a card that I like more than Russell does, and for me, it's just because it's got a lot of upside. It's a bit of a weird card. I could totally see this card not getting played, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The most relevant thing that this does is that you can exile cards from graveyards that enter the battlefield after it leaves. So you can exile your own creatures from your own graveyard, and when this dies, then it comes straight into play. So it's not... It's a little bit different from like a Banisher Priest, because it has the Banisher Priest mode, but if you can turn it on and whatever, you can also recur guys with it, and maybe put it in a weird position for your opponent where they can cast a removal spell on this to get their guy back, but you also get one of your guys back as well. So I like the upside here. In general, cards like this are asking a little too much of the deck casting it, but look, it's 1 power. 1 power for 3 mana kind of sucks, but in this case, it's a bit of an upside where you can quite easily train it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I see it being a little bit better than almost every other white card in the set, because there's not that many good white cards in the set. None of them have upside, so this is the one with upside. So at the very least, I like this card for you Commander players out there and all the rest of it, because it has a lot of text, but... it's pretty medium, to be honest, but hey, sometimes you get medium mythics with a lot of text on them.
Yeah, look, pros, upsides, relevant creature type, hugely relevant human, secondary, relevant job type in soldier. It is extremely flexible, up to, so it's not a forced exile. It can clear the way. If you're on the offensive, it can be a value engine. If you are needing to return things from your graveyard, if you're exiling tokens of the opposition, it is gone. They're all very good. And it can, in theory, scale.
Grows itself as well, yeah.
Pardon me?
Grows itself as well,
Grows itself as well.
Well, it's good training, so it'll grow. Like...
that's right. It scales. So
yeah,
cons double white. It's a 3 mana 1/2. So and training doesn't trigger multiple times per turn. So it's going to attack as a 2/3 on turn 4.
Yeah,
which I think is going to be hard to be of relevant size. They're the two big ones for me.
Yeah,
3 mana for a 1/2 that you have to have an advantageous attack. With it attacking as a 2/3 is pretty hard pill for me to swallow. That's just where I kind of sit on it. But Card's got a
absolutely.
lot of text, and training is something, it's reverse mentor. We haven't seen this before. I can't, until I play with it, it's hard for me to judge it. But it just seems like one of those mythics that people get excited about and then just see zero play.
Very fair, very fair.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the betting favourite for where this card ends up, but we'll see. All right, moving on to cards we actually think will get played. By invitation only. Yeah, Russell's very high on this card. Do you wanna take it away?
Delicious. This is, I suppose, like these days, 5 mana is a lot where these kind of Wrath of God effects sit. This is a very unique take on a board sweeper effect. In the fact that it is not technically symmetrical and you can control the scale that this happens. So if you are ahead on board, you can make them sacrifice up to all their creatures and you can have some amount left over. Extremely good with token production, extremely good with triggered abilities because it's not a target thing. So something that comes to mind that Sam mentioned before was something like Sedgemoor Witch, where you automatically would get a free body to then sacrifice to it. Sacrifice gets around indestructible, gets around regeneration. There's no targeting, so it gets around a lot of stuff. This is a sweet board sweeping design, which I think is going to be amazing for these if we do get to see more creature mid-range mirrors. But it can also just slot into hard control. If you're creatureless control,
yeah,
I doubt your opponent has 13 creatures or 14 creatures. Like it does. This is a board sweeper that can play just as much in mid-range as it can in control, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was going to say, just in terms of direct application, is that this gets around a lot of problem cards for hard control, and they do exist in the format. Like, there's not heaps of them, but Coma is like completely unbeatable for, like, let's say traditional blue-white control. This card beats that. So I can see reasons that this would be the even with things like Doomscar in the format, I could see this hitting main decks if the format is in a spot where it needs to. So it's a nice safety valve, and I'm glad it's printed. I think it's a really cool card as well. The application of picking a number that works better for you than it does for your opponent is also pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, big fan. It's a good card.
Yeah, really fun. Enjoyed a lot. And the art is sick, and the flavor text is sick.
So that's a Story Spotlight card.
Big ticks all round.
Story Spotlight, only by invitation. Which I still don't quite understand, but it's a less hilarious piece of art than Grandpa's Gone, aka Fateful Absence.
Tell you after, don't worry. I'll fill you in.
Grandpa's Gone, oh no. Look, I feel like this is the end of the Grandpa's Gone arc, so, like, I can't wait until we get MTG anime to explain this to me, but, yeah. Alright, next up, this is the card that I think is the best, which is a depressing thing to say. I really like Circle of Confinement, just to give, it's for hard control decks, pretty much, unless you really need to beat vampires for a particular reason, although even then, it's not much upside. But Circle of Confinement, it's basically Glass Casket that we've had just rotate out of the format, except it's an enchantment instead of an artifact. It's just a basic removal thing that, White often has access to this effect. So this isn't really an interesting card at all. However, it's something that was missing for White, and we do have Portable Hole, but hitting CMC3 in Standard is a lot more meaningful than hitting any type of permanent. So I'm really happy we have it, and I think it's going to be the sort of effect that you need to look for in hard control decks to be able to cobble together the 60 that you need to play it in Constructed. So I like it. I think it's meaningful and relevant, and I think it's incredibly boring.
Yeah, it's just a new take on what has become the standard staple. We used to have Oblivion Ring, which costs 3 mana and could deal with any permanent. They've kind of moved to these 2 mana to hit a creature only with CMC3. We saw that in Ixalan.
Where they got a Raptor back, a 3/3 Raptor.
They got a 3/3 back, but more often than not, you are playing against aggressive decks that do not have enchantment removal, so it acts as a hard removal spell. We saw obviously Glass Casket, which was very playable, Portable Hole, which is playable but has its downfalls, its pitfalls, as it were. And now we have this one, which has a weird little rider. I originally misread this card and didn't see the vampire. I thought it was just whatever spell would exile, which would have been much, much, much better. But even as it is, it's situationally going to come up, and obviously there's quite a shot in the arm for vampires in this set, so we may see a vampire deck, in which case this is just pure upside.
Meaningfully,
so,
to me, one of the decks that I want to play day one is vampires. Like, I'm really keen on vampires, which we'll get to. Obviously, they're not in white, but I really like my aggro red decks, red black decks if that's the case, and I also really like my control decks. So this sort of hits one of the archetypes I like, but also will support the other one if it's any good. So yeah, look, it's sort of playing in to my appeals, but look, it's just an innings eater that you need in these control decks. So sorry for the boring card, but look, it needs to be mentioned.
Hey, gotta have the bread and butter.
Gotta have the bread and butter indeed. All right, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you back here in a second for Blue.